Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Now, UFC Fight Night, Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis in Paris. Oui. It honestly delivered. 14 fight card. We had from Oki versus Duncan all the way through to Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis. We had very good finishes. We had Ziam absolutely brutally finishing Matt Frevola, which made French people his absolute worst nightmare at this point. And then we've obviously got Imavov now cementing himself as a title challenger. And obviously Renato, let me tell you something, Moicano getting his money. And with that, and on a serious note, thank you guys for watching these videos, sticking with me. It's been a bit tricky as of late, just moving places. Internet's been on, internet's been off, and then now my community tab is not working, so all my image polls I can't actually get images on, so that's why you probably haven't seen a lot in the community tab, except for obviously the updated videos showing you that they're going to be out, which hopefully I'm going to be getting fixed as soon as possible. But thank you guys for obviously watching all the content and sticking with me. But let's get into what you're actually here for. Let's get into the fight night recap, kicking it off with the first fight of Bolaji Oki versus Chris Duncan. Now, this 100% is one of my best underdog picks that I could have called confidently in the predictions. Don't get me wrong, Oki, he is an up-and-comer. He's got the hype around him, but just not in comparison to a guy like Chris Duncan, who just has more quality experience under his belt. Oki did a good job of, starting strong. He did have Duncan on the back foot, but Duncan doesn't care about those exchanges, whether he's on the back foot or the front foot. He wants a firefight. And Oki, he just hasn't fought a guy that is as relentless as Duncan. Now, Duncan was doing a very good job of, making sure that he was remaining cool, remaining calm when Oki was coming forward, and he was tagging Oki back at points. But I'll say Oki on the feet was getting the better of him, outlanded him pretty much 3-1. But when it came to the ground game, Oki was just getting too lackadaisical. He was getting too just confident. He was getting too settled, and Duncan just completely took advantage of that and did a fantastic job of obviously sinking in the guillotine choke. There's not much there. It's round 1, 3 minutes and 34 seconds, but Duncan straight on the guillotine, like no hesitation when Oki put his head on his side. So yeah, Duncan was just fully ready for it. And Oki, as I said in the predictions, stand up, very good, very clean. Ground game has a lot to work on. And it is unfortunate for him though, I will say, because he was literally just about to slip out of the guillotine. He was either just about to slip out or Duncan was letting him go. I think he was actually going to slip out though. And just as he pretty much slipped out, he got slept. That's insane. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And Duncan, he did a very good job, very fair job of actually calling the ref out and just saying like, he is out. He didn't deal him any extra damage, didn't hold it any longer. Oki was flashed out of consciousness. So yeah, good win from Chris Duncan. Fantastic, great underdog win, but a lot of respect there for not following up with those extra shots on Oki while he was already unconscious. So yeah, great win for him and a great bet to win. Moving up, Nora Cornolle versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. So first loss of the card for me. We didn't do too bad in this card, did 9 out of 14, I believe. There was a few rocky ones which I didn't agree with, which we will get into. But this is one I actually don't agree with on the opposite end. I had Nora Cornolle in my predictions, but this shouldn't have been a split decision by any means. Cavalcanti won this unanimously 100%. She was holding the center of the octagon the whole time, controlled pretty much the whole entire fight, realistically. Cornolle just didn't really have much to offer Cavalcanti in terms of pressuring her, just making her worried on the feet or anything like that. There wasn't enough clinch exchanges from Cornolle. She's the better in the clinch. She let Cavalcanti not only dictate the pace, but she let her have her range, which is the issue. And Cavalcanti was doing a very good job of obviously finding her distance and putting that right hand straight down the pipe, and that is what hurt Cornolle badly and pretty much basically knocked her down, put a knee to the ground. But yeah, needless to say, Cornolle just didn't have anything there. She just really didn't have anything to offer Cavalcanti, which she could have. She just needed to be more scrappy, utilize the clinch game, and just utilize the level changes when Cavalcanti was just relentlessly forward pressuring. She got a good takedown at the start. She got that one takedown, which was good, but aside from that, it clearly just didn't work out. And Cavalcanti, being the fighter on the card with the least amount of experience, she is looking like the dark horse in the bantamweight division now. She's looking very good, very clean with her striking. Ground game probably has a bit more to offer there, but she's pretty young into her career, so there's a lot of room to grow. But yeah, ultimately overall, Cavalcanti, didn't have her in my predictions, but she should have had this one unanimously without a doubt. Moving on, David Barez versus Victor Altamirano. Yes, like everyone else and their nan's dog, I thought it was Barez until Michael Bisping, 100,000 IQ, said Barez, and so we're calling him Barez. Now, Barez had a very good first and second round. I mean, he pretty much damaged Altamirano, pretty much dropped him technically every single round, or at least damaged him every single round. His striking was just so much more consistent in this fight. Altamirano was just so predictable in the first and second rounds. All he was doing was just flicking high kicks, you know, which was a good idea because they were in switch stance. Altamirano switch stance fighter, Barez orthodox fighter. Altamirano was in southpaw, so it's good to flick those high kicks, those back power kicks in that position. But Barez was all over it. He was very defensively sound. I mean, his arms were getting weakened by the third round, which is where Altamirano found success. But Barez getting the first and second round clear, 29-28 for him. He was just timing his shots perfectly. Every time Altamirano was trying to move out of the way, he was just ducking straight down, and Barez was just scooping uppercuts on him every single time, scooping the uppercuts, catching him, and then blocking his head kicks as well. So Altamirano ultimately on the feet didn't have a lot of answers, and Altamirano needed to use a lot more takedown offense in this game, because as I said in the predictions, I had Barez, but Altamirano, his best chance was the takedowns, because Barez on the ground, when he is being offensively driven to the ground, is his weakest point. His takedown and submission based defense is his worst game. So I don't know why Altamirano didn't utilize that more. I mean, Altamirano was not really doing much, just like high kick, lunging 1-2. That's pretty much all we were seeing until the third round, because in those first two just wasn't looking comfortable, getting tagged while he was on the back foot. But the third round he did start mixing up his shots a lot better. He had the spinning back fist, he had a Superman punch as well, and he was just naturally taking the center of the octagon more, which Barez was doing the whole entire time. So this, the judges got right. This was a clear 29-28 to Barez in this one. You could honestly argue, actually, it could have been a 30-27 even for Barez. I mean, he still dropped him in the last 10 seconds. He did get a B-Tech Holloway moment. Let's be fair here. He got it in the last 10 seconds, but yeah, overall, Barez had a very fantastic performance for 35 years old. As I said in predictions, that wasn't going to be an issue here. Very tight boxing, just very clean, very technical. And I want to see a matchup between like him and a Joshua Van type of fighter, someone that has very good boxing, because those boxing exchanges with that kind of level that Barez is putting out, that's going to be a fun fight. Moving up, Ailin Perez versus Daria Zhelezniakova. Now, Zhelezniakova, I just feel like she's someone I'm kind of getting surprised as to why she's been signed in the UFC. Now, from a nationality perspective, being Russian as a female, very rare. So there is that, obviously, to fill in that, you know, kind of make it more versatile and inclusive within, obviously, the UFC roster. But, you know, the two Russian girls we've had so far, including Zhelezniakova, they've both lost literally within the last month. So it's not looking good. And Ailin Perez, this was just a perfect matchup for her. I had her as my most confident underdog pick going in through the predictions, and perfect prediction as well. Round one, submission. I mean, Perez was absolutely dog walking her, because Zhelezniakova, her takedown defense, her ground game overall is an extreme liability. I mean, Perez, to that point, even on the feet, she's supposed to have the disadvantage. She was the one that was getting the advantage overall. I mean, she was mixing up the level changes, kind of pump faking as well, which Zhelezniakova is usually good at. And then, yeah, finding success with her strikes because Daria was so hesitant, and then Perez was able to level change. I mean, she landed 2 takedowns. We'll say at least Zhelezniakova at least stuffed 2. That was 2 more than I thought she was going to stuff. And yeah, as I said, Perez, the once she got it to the ground and she really started that transitional, game that she does have, best part of her game with her strength, it was over without a doubt. I mean, Ailin, as soon as she got to the ground, transitioned into full mount. Yeah, Zhelezniakova just doesn't have the fight IQ to defend that properly, and the arm triangle was sunk in pretty much instantly. Now, on the flip side, when it comes to Ailin Perez and actually obviously winning, she does have a fair bit of audacity, twerking at Zhelezniakova right when she's getting up after she's finished her. And usually I'd say that's fine, but then, her not making weight as well is... I mean, if it's the way she wants to go, she can go down the Colby Covington route and, be one of the most controversial fighters in the UFC. If you haven't checked out that video, I'll leave it in the description. It's a good way to become a heel in the UFC, at least in that division. But regardless, she absolutely dog walked, got it done by that submission, perfect prediction, and now she needs a striker. She needs a striker that has a good ground game, that can combat her on the ground. I think she needs someone like a Carol Rosa, even like a Holly Holm or something like that. Someone that can really test her on the feet. Moving up the card, Taylor Lapilus versus Vince Morales. Now, Taylor Lapilus is the fighter that's really kicked it off for France in this fight card. He looked very good. I mean, it was a pretty tough test to start off with. Morales was actually looking pretty decent. And granted, that's fair enough because he has just come, back off his previous stint from the UFC, going on a 5-fight win streak on the regional scene, and coming in and fighting top competition like Lapilus. So he did look good in the, the start of the first round, but Lapilus much faster, just much cleaner striker. That reach that he has is just such an advantage for the fight style he does have. I mean, he was mixing up his shots extremely well. And from the jump was just controlling the lead hand. And that was what was really allowing him to dictate the pace and him being able to do that with that reach that he does have. I mean, he just played the perfect game that he needed to play that fit straight into his style. And Morales' biggest issue that he has, which was definitely evident in this fight, is him not moving off the center line to save his life. Lapilus was piecing him up with the jab, straight strikes. Morales obviously not going off the center line, trying to counter strike, does not have the same amount of reach, is not reaching Lapilus. Pretty simple math there. But yeah, Lapilus just great, not only at long range, I mean, his close range as well. He was landing nice elbows and he cut Morales pretty early as well, and he just looked locked in the whole entire fight. So he did a very, very good job. 30-27 was definitely fair. And now I think it's time for a Chris Gutierrez matchup. That is a fascinating stylistic matchup to see between two semi-unorthodox style kind of kickboxers. Moving up the card, Ludovit Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. Now, honestly, Ludovit Klein, still think he is without a doubt one of, if not the biggest dark horse in the lightweight division. But you've got to give it to Roosevelt Roberts here. I mean, he did a fantastic job of just he was counted out completely, and he even getting a 29-28 against him is still a win in his books. He was like a plus 1,000 at one point, and this is why I've said it in previous videos. I hate these just explosively different odds. You have these massive odds, and it is a fight. Anything can happen. I mean, you look at Strickland versus Adesanya. Look what happened there. Adesanya got taken out for 4 rounds. Now, in this fight, Ludovit Klein, obviously he was winning this fight, outlanded him very well. The control time is evident, 8 minutes and 51 seconds. But Roberts was dealing damage. I mean, by the end of that fight, you look at the two of them, Ludovit Klein was the one that looked busted up. He was the one that took more visible damage. Roberts obviously took more, but Ludovit Klein really just had to actually execute a takedown offensive game because Roberts was actually landing some clean shots. He was using very good combinations, using his length as well very well, even though the reach difference wasn't massive in this fight. Roberts was doing a good job with the straight strikes, but Klein, being just that dominant force that he is, realistically, his combinations were just a lot cleaner. And I will say Roberts actually landed the better overall one shot. You know, he landed a head kick that was fairly clean, wobbled Klein a tiny bit, but yeah, I'll say it. Look, Roberts, he gave more problems than Klein was expecting, without a doubt. But moving into round 2, especially, that's when Klein was really just, you know, upping the gears, securing the takedowns, and just really dog walking him on the ground. And that's when he was landing good elbows in the ground and pound. And the ground and pound was really just what gave him the fight. There wasn't the boxing on the feet, to be honest. But you got to give it to Roberts in that sense too. He was actually decently active in the guard. And yeah, ultimately, look, good win for Klein. This matchup never should have been made to start off with, because MMA math makes no sense. Ignacio Bahamondes killed Roberts, and then Klein's beaten Ignacio Bahamondes and almost knocked him out. So yeah, Klein, yeah, I don't know why this fight was made, in all honesty. I mean, and Roberts coming in on short notice too, like, that's even more impressive. Klein needs to, yeah, be fighting someone in the top 15 now. Seriously, he's just been hovering around there for too long. Just give him a good test. He deserves it. Even if this was not what we all expected, he should have got a finish. You know, with those odds, should have got a finish. Should have at least been a 30-27. But we move. Klein, give him a top contender. Roosevelt Roberts, fair game. Moving up the card, Oumar C versus Woon Jung. Oumar C, this was a fantastic fight for him, not just in terms of his performance, but the experience for him. He needed the 3 rounds, without a doubt. I was pretty confident that he was going to submit Woon Jung. But Woon Jung, I will say, he, you know, especially through the first 2 rounds, he did keep his cool. He was actually threatening Oumar C a fair bit, landed some nice shots in there. But Oumar C did a very good job at the start, you know, great leg kicks, definitely a noticeable speed difference between the two. But that being said, it still was a close first round. But Oumar landing those takedowns and getting that control time was pretty crucial. And especially after Jung pretty much rocked him twice, you know, that's where it was really coming in clutch. And speaking of being clutch, that 83-inch reach of C, using that jab to pick off Jung in the last half of the fight, more so in the last half of the second round, that is what was really paying dividends and just really slowing Jung down. And that third round was just a fantastic test for C. He was landing very good shots, very good combinations, and it shows that he's not just like a finishing machine. You know, he can go the distance, and we can see his stamina there. He was getting a bit tired in the second round, but you can see he did get a second win going into the third. So overall, I think this is better than a finish for him, to be honest. Even though I had him by the sub, no perfect prediction, but this is just better for his overall experience. And seriously, watch out for this guy. And moving on to the feature prelim, Ion Cutelaba versus Ivan Erslan. Now, I've got to say, Erslan, he was decent, but I think that he was just a bit tentative at points, and Cutelaba was just really dictating the pace and getting the forward pressure. This is one of those fights that's a very forward, like a seesaw forward pressure momentum kind of fight. Whoever's getting the forward pressure is finding the more success, and that was Cutelaba. Cutelaba was doing a good job of mixing up his shots very well and not fully overextending like a madman and throwing the fucking kitchen sink, which is what I said in the predictions and, you know, what most people think with this guy. And I will give it to him as well, even though he had, you know, he only landed 25% of his takedowns. The takedowns that he landed did count. You know, he did a good job of making sure that he actually got it to the ground when he was in danger. You know, didn't threaten Erslan on the ground or anything like that. It was just more defensively sound from Cutelaba when, you know, there was a threat from Erslan gaining momentum. Now, Erslan, good control, obviously, like way outmatched Cutelaba, but Cutelaba was just landing better shots on the feet. He just naturally, just basically basic MMA math, basic MMA judging, it was just more damage from Ion Cutelaba. And I ultimately gave Ion Cutelaba 2 rounds out of 3. Yeah, I'd say I'd give it to him. I did have Ivan Erslan. I think Erslan, like, ultimately, he is a better boxer, but I just don't think he was trusting him in himself too much. But you got to give it to Cutelaba on the other side. He wasn't just, you know, fighting like a crazy madman like he usually does. And when he doesn't do that, he actually performs fairly well, which he did in this fight. So credit to him. But yeah, Erslan, I think he'll be back. He just needs to let it go a bit more. But yeah, overall, good comeback win for Cutelaba, especially after that Linz fight. And moving on to the banging main card. Oh, Jesus. Firas Ziam versus Matt Frevola. This was fucked. Like, honestly, I did have Frevola, and yeah, my prediction got shit on. Like, the raw strength of Frevola at the start was a decent issue. He did land that takedown. Ziam was struggling a little bit. That's where most of Frevola's control time was. But after that, I mean, Ziam did a fantastic job of just everything. His striking, like his strike accuracy, his distance management. He just wasn't giving Frevola any space to breathe. And Frevola did not know what to do with himself. He was swinging his right overhand like crazy. No setup, nothing. Ziam was just doing so much of a better job of just staying technical, staying composed, landing the better shots, landing the cleaner shots, landing the more powerful shots. And from Frevola, you can't be doing that against a technical kickboxer like Ziam, who is improving leaps and bounds now. Did not think he'd be improving this fast. And Frevola, obviously, he's fought better competition. And that's where I had him, really. I had him out of the brute strength, you know, finding that submission, which he had a couple of attempts in the first round. It says one on the screen, but there was two there, I'm positive. Ziam did a great job of avoiding those submissions, you know, getting up, and he just really mixed it up very well, going to the body. And yeah, just even on the ground, he was out transitioning Frevola extremely well. And yeah, we've just never, there's parts of his game we've just never seen before. The takedowns, the ground transitions, overall the cleanliness of his striking is there, but yeah, the power that we saw, especially with his twos, was fantastic. But come on, that fucking knee was so brutal. That was ridiculous. Like, especially with him getting his knee that high is credit. I mean, he's tall, but getting his knee that high and keeping that speed as he gets it to that peak is impressive. And just clean on the chin of Frevola took him out bad. Frevola was snoozing for like, honestly, it's probably like 2.5 minutes. Like, he's going to be out for a while. He's probably going to be out for over a year, to be honest, after that knockout. First one that snapped into my mind was like bloody Bryce Mitchell against bloody, what's his name? Josh Emmett. How can I forget Josh Emmett? Yeah, just that's kind of what it reminds me of. Just that real, just death. Like, you just feel like, it's one of those knockouts, like, are you fucking alive? That's what it felt like. So honestly, Ziam, he's put the lightweight division on notice, as stacked as it is. Taking out a guy like Frevola that badly, who's a guy that took out Drew Dober going into the top 15, and he was top 15 at one point. That's so much confidence for Ziam, and he 100% deserves it. Now, him versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Certified banger kickboxers, just very aggressive. You know, Ziam obviously more technical in that sense, but if anyone's going to draw the dog out of him, it is going to be Bahamondes. And let's be honest here, that fight's probably not getting out of the first round. So let's have it. Take my money. Moving up, Morgan Charrier versus Gabriel Miranda. Now, Morgan Charrier, just a clinic. This guy is very good, and I'm still pretty salty about his loss to Chepe Mariscal. I love Chepe Mariscal, Tasmanian devil of a fighter. He always makes his fights entertaining, and he is a quality fighter, but he did not beat Morgan Charrier. Morgan Charrier should be still on this great win streak. He is a very good fighter, definitely a threat at featherweight, and definitely a talisman for the French, you know, obviously French nationality for that featherweight division. I think he is just very good in terms of having that judo base, very clean striking, obviously got the power, great takedown defense, which we've saw on clear display in this fight. He stuffed 75% of Miranda's takedowns. But he also just showed that he wasn't scared to go to the ground with Gabriel Miranda. And Gabriel Miranda is a submission machine. And look, there's not much we can analyze in this fight. except for obviously that perfect timing on with his striking. Not only with it when it just came to outrange, but obviously the left hook that took Miranda out. I mean, Charrier to a point was just playing with Miranda on the feet, let's be honest here. And look, momentum being cut down by Chepe or not, this guy is a killer. And I am very keen to see what is next for the B-Tech XXX Tentacion. And moving up, Kevin Jousset versus Brian Battle. Now, I had Kevin Jousset in this fight. I thought this would honestly probably be a split decision. I thought it'd be that close. But I had Brian Battle in my underrated fighters for a reason. I don't regret not picking him. I think Kevin Jousset, honestly, looking at how they've fought before this fight, Kevin Jousset is the more clean. He's just a cleaner striker, had better head movement. Not in this fight. Not in this fight. Battle, honestly, Battle is a power striker. He has very good head kicks, everything like that. Jousset was doing a good job of blocking those. But Battle, from the start, from the jump, this guy looked so dialed. I mean, looking at him on his walkout, you know, coming in, obviously just having an absolute scene with his coach, just screaming at each other. He is gonna make a pretty good heel in the UFC, which we've clearly seen from this whole entire fight card. And you know what? When you got performances like that, fuck it, you can do whatever you want, because he looked very good. I mean, there was back and forth, you know, pressure, especially when it came to the clinch exchanges. They were very interesting at the start of the first round. They were both obviously having, you know, consistent over-unders, just flipping each other to the cage. So it was interesting who was going to get the better of those, which they definitely cancelled each other out. So it was good to see them obviously back off and exchange on the feet, which I was more confident that Jousset was going to be able to get the better of, which at the start he was landing better shots. The two down the pipe was the money shot. But two things here. I mean, Brian Battle's ridiculous chin to not get taken out by one of those twos, and his volume overall. The volume was incredible. This guy did not tire out. He was consistently on the pace. He was suffocating Kevin Jousset. Kevin Jousset is good on the back foot, but not when you are getting closed off that badly. He couldn't even circle out. Battle was on him the whole entire time, doing a good job of cutting him off. He wasn't following him, and yeah, 100% just Battle just deserved this win. I mean, he looked fantastic. Came in getting the absolute shit booed out of him. You know, he was the absolute most hated fighter on this card by a country mile. But, you know, as the heel, he couldn't have had a better performance ultimately. And yeah, I honestly think we need to see him getting really close to the top 15 now. I mean, he's got the tough win on his record. He's taking out these good fighters now. He's only lost to Renat Fakhretdinov, who is a very good fighter. I mean, he's taking out these up-and-comers like Kevin Jousset. I mean, he was going to take out Ange Lusa, who is a durable ball of muscle, till that obviously got called off. There's just a lot of evidence here. There's a lot of evidence for Brian Battle to really get ahead and hopefully get into that top 15. Moving up the card, William Gomis versus Joanderson Brito. French judging at its finest. I obviously don't agree with this decision, and not a lot of people do. And honestly, I don't see how this can be any way, shape, or form any less than a 29-28 for Joanderson Brito. I can possibly see how William Gomis won the third round, you know, especially with his liver shots and the overall success in the exchanges. But the second round was clearly Brito's. 10-9s across the board. But the first round was scored to Gomis. How? I don't understand how they've edged that to Gomis. I mean, the first round was very fast paced, and Gomis was like keeping him guessing with level changes and everything, but Brito was just wild. He was his best self. He gave Gomis no room to breathe, constantly pressured him and took him down successfully, got a lot of his control time in that round and hurt him with an overhand, as well as that shoot up his legs. I mean, I don't know much more that we need to say that it's not just fucking French judging here. You know, like William Gomis did not win that round. I like William Gomis. He's a great fighter. Did not win that round and ultimately should not have won this fight. Joanderson Brito, obviously he'll be back. Hopefully in his hopefully this doesn't skew his mentality, because he is one of the most entertaining fighters in that featherweight division without a fucking doubt. This guy is serious business. He puts a lot of the featherweight fighters in danger. He is just very durable, extremely aggressive, got the submissions, got the KOs. You know, he's the full package. But William Gomis, you know, obviously he takes the win here, shouldn't have got it, but him versus someone like a Lerone Murphy would be a fantastic matchup. Joanderson, Brito, hopefully at some point, take my bank account, we eventually get Brito versus Gene Silva sometime later in the rankings, because that will blow the roof off a stadium, without a doubt. But yeah, I'm leaving it here. Brito should have won 29-28, but yeah, whatever. Now, moving on to the co-main event, Nassourdine Imavov versus Brendan Allen. Thank you, Nassourdine Imavov, for the perfect prediction, and I was confident with this one, to be honest. Just stylistically, Nassourdine is one of the worst matchups for Brendan Allen, because Brendan Allen is very good when it comes to fighters that have that fear of the ground game, you know, have that fear of being on their back, you know, not being able to, you know, really sprawl away from Allen, which there are fighters through his win streak that he has been able to face. Nassourdine Imavov is not one of them. Nassourdine Imavov is, as tall, I think, taller than Allen, and he has great sprawling capabilities. Is a lot of his body is legs, so his sprawling capability is to get away from the single legs, which we saw in this fight. It just is a nightmare for Brendan Allen, because he was just, obviously, the first round, 4 minutes and 45 seconds of control time, fair enough. I was very surprised by that Nassourdine let that one slip, but I was still confident he was going to take the next 2 rounds. The urgency was coming out. His boxing was looking very good. We'll definitely say that, but Brendan Allen going against someone that has good transitional capabilities on the ground just doesn't give Allen many answers, to be honest. And ultimately, Brendan Allen should have kept this on the feet. I do, you know, it's obviously up to the fighter, but his coaches were just bad calls. I mean, they were telling him to get it to the ground as fast as possible. Brendan Allen, after the first round, I mean, in the second and third, he was finding all the success on the feet. He was matching Imavov on the feet overall. Imavov's timing was a bit better and was landing overall the better shots, but Allen was matching it a lot more than, you know, going to the ground, getting a single leg stuffed, and then taking about 48 light years to get back up off the canvas. So that looked terrible for the judges, and it was pretty clear that Imavov was going to be taking this. And it's good in terms of that first round that Imavov was, you know, got put behind, because it just shows that he faced that adversity, he's cool, calm, and collected under that pressure. And now he's title ready, pretty much. I think I would like him to fight Adesanya. I think that would be a very fascinating matchup, just to see really that strong boxing versus that strong kickboxing, and having Adesanya fight someone with the same kind of length and reach and everything, not necessarily reach, but just that length and kind of stature would be good. And Imavov's got the takedown threat there. He's a well-rounded fighter, and Izzy fought the best well-rounded fighter in Dricus du Plessis and lost, so it's good for him to get redemption stylistically, and it'll just be a fun matchup on the feet. And moving up to the main card, Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis. I mean, whew, where do we start? Moicano, my God, this guy is serious. I had Benoit Saint-Denis, I don't care. Like, Moicano is becoming a serious fan favorite. And I'm telling you now, like, Paddy Pimblett is obviously one of the biggest fighters in the UFC right now. Moicano is matching that status. Seriously, Moicano versus Paddy Pimblett is huge. Like, it is a huge fight. I would be so surprised if they don't make that fight. I mean, both of them, I think it's very even, you know. Both of them are insane on the ground, which Moicano clearly with this fight, insane on the ground. Not even an overall submissions. His transitional capabilities, that first round, holy shit. Like, Bisping was like saying a 10-7, and Bisping jokes around a lot and, you know, just fucks around in a funny way, but I'm honestly borderline agreeing with him, to be honest. I don't really know how you really score a 10-7. It's pretty opinionated, but shit, if it's anything, if it's what he did to Benoit's fucking face in one round with the killer that Benoit is, I wouldn't be mad if that was a 10-7. Seriously, it's 100% a 10-8. I mean, bust it up Benoit's face. no opportunity for Benoit when it came to being on the ground. I mean, Benoit on the feet, hit the teep, got caught, straight down to the ground. Renato all over him. And the biggest surprise, which Paul Felder did mention, Moicano is stronger than BSD as well, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought Benoit would actually really be able to, you know, muscle his way out of certain positions, with obviously in combatants with how good his grappling is to get out of it. But Moicano, not only stronger, I didn't realize how much bigger he looked. Moicano is actually pretty big for a lightweight fighter. He's definitely filled out, especially coming through from featherweight. And yeah, honestly, it is ultimately sad for Benoit Saint-Denis. I mean, losing in France, coming off the brutal loss to Dustin Poirier. He handled it with class, obviously, which is good. And so did Moicano. I don't have any arguments with it. And I don't have any arguments with the doctor. His face was a fucking mess. I mean, as much as we want the fight to go on, he couldn't see. You can't have one eye. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis would have fought with no eyes. He's an absolute savage killer. If you haven't seen Eliseo Deleski dos Santos versus him, watch that fight. It is incredible. The heart that this guy has is insane. He will be back without a doubt. It was just obviously, you know, I can't say unlucky because Moicano just was flawless. Absolutely flawless. You can't take anything away from him. And Moicano deserves all the money. 100% all the money. I mean, yeah, there's not much else to say. I mean, Benoit, he'll be back. He'll fight someone around that top 15. He might even fight Jalen Turner. That would be nuts, which I hope we get. I mean, lightweight, it's kind of hard not to have good fights. And Moicano, obviously, as I said at the start, just make the Paddy Pimblett fight. Now, moving on to our fight card awards, kicking it off with the fighter to watch. I feel like a broken record with this guy, Oumar C. I've had him in his debut as my fighter to watch. I had him in my predictions as my fighter to watch. And as we saw in his matchup this weekend, I have him as my fighter to watch in this one. No dramas with that, because this guy, very young, light heavyweight, very well-rounded. We don't have a lot of those. We don't have a lot of strong wrestlers or, you know, just guys that have that really, you know, just great body for light heavyweight, you know, the 83-inch reach. Like, he's a, you know, he's got the physicality for it. And him mixing up that well-rounded game, getting more experience under his belt with that unanimous decision win. I mean, definitely look out for this guy. Bit of a betting nightmare in terms of specifics, because he can literally win in any way, shape, or form. But it's good because we saw a bit of a humane side. He's not invincible. He did get hurt by Jung. Credit to Jung, but yeah, Oumar's side just really showed that he can, you know, adapt to the game, you know, face that adversity and pick up a second win in that third round to really take this one home. So fair enough for him, and definitely keep an eye out for him in his next matchup. And moving on to finish of the night. Firas Ziam. I mean, do we really need to say anything about this? This was well and clear, straight out the bloody world stratosphere to the moon. This was without a doubt finish of the night. Killed Matt Frevola, 6 feet under. The guy is having nightmares about French fighters, probably the whole of France for the next whole entire lifetime. I mean, in all seriousness, like, Ziam just did a very good job of not only obviously getting that knockout, but seriously just dictating the pace the whole entire fight. He kept calm, especially in the first round, getting out of those submission attempts with the arm bar especially, and then, you know, just making sure I was on the feet, out transitioning, protecting himself on the ground, getting his own takedowns. He just had the definition of pretty much a flawless performance, and credit to him putting that lightweight division on notice. And moving on to the top 3 most notable moments of the card, kicking it off in third place, we have Bryan Battle, the heel. Colby Covington did walk, so Bryan Battle could run. This guy, not only with his performance, but clearly, as you can see in the picture, just put on a show inside and outside through the whole entire fight week. This guy talked the talk and fucking walked the walk. He absolutely just suffocated Kevin Jousset, who is a good striker, has good judo, has decent submissions. I mean, Bryan Battle has just improved and improved and improved. He is, without a doubt, honestly, I think he's the most underrated fighter outside the rankings. He is just showing that he is better and better, leaps and bounds every single time. And especially in this fight, his striking, his volume, his accuracy, and with that, his power and his cardio overall with his chin. He was getting tagged. He got his head snapped back, just came straight back and shot another 3 shots more. He, yeah, just looked fantastic and was, as we can see and as we know, very entertaining for this card. And I'm sure he's going to be staying in Paris for about 30 seconds. And moving on to second place, I've got to go with Benoit Saint-Denis, particularly just the damage. I mean, I said it in obviously his matchup, but the heart that this guy has to obviously stay in there. Obviously, the doctor made the right call. Can't shit on the doctor for that, but you look at his face, both eyes busted, had two cuts. One of them was massive on the side of his face. One of them was up near his eyebrow. Moicano ran away with it. His stock is just going through the roof. Easy top 10 next, if not Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, Benoit, he will be back. Obviously, he took a lot of damage, a lot of swelling there. It wasn't going to be going for much longer. And he was doing a good job of, you know, just targeting the body. He was doing what he could have. He was targeting the body as best he could because he was trying to lower Moicano's hands for the front head kick, for his front leg head kick that he usually uses, which he knocked out Frevola with. Rip Frevola. And yeah, like he was doing the right thing in that scenario. You could clearly see he was doing it, but you know, there just wasn't much that could happen. And he did want to fight on. He would have fought, as I said, he would have fought the 5 rounds. Absolutely no eyeballs. He is just that type of guy, that type of warrior. But yeah, credit to Moicano and Benoit. Without a doubt, he will be back. And moving on to number 1, I got to give it to the French crowd. Like, obviously not being there, watching it on the TV, man, I honestly just don't see many crowds that just have that much atmosphere, you know? Like, I think of like the UK, like the O2, something around that. Like, you don't really get it that much in America, I'd say, unless you're getting like big places, like unless you're getting like MSG or something like that. But the Paris, like the French crowd was crazy. Like from the start, from literally the start, they were insane. And you even go through to like Charrier doing the national anthem, and the crowd was just honed in. Like they were going nuts. And obviously the commentators, you know, they do say like, oh, the crowd is so loud in here, it's insane, just to kind of amp it up. I honestly would not be surprised if they couldn't hear shit, because it honestly, just even on the TV, like my volume wasn't that loud, but fuck, it was loud. It was loud. It was, yeah, it was incredible. It would have been fantastic to be there, and it really just made up for a fantastic fight night in Paris. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out my video on the most controversial fighters in the UFC. Just got it here on the screen, and please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.